Hello, runners and potential marathoners out there. You might have decided to start training for a marathon. Well, it's going to be a sweaty, heavy, and joyful ride in the same time.
These days, over 800 marathons are held worldwide each year, with millions of people participating. In the last decades, more and more people participate, and we all face somewhat the same challenges.
In this video, I go over the things, problems, but also the joy I faced during my training block for my Valencia Marathon here in Iten, Kenya. I hope you recognize some of the mistakes that I made, and I will give you some tips and also to avoid these mistakes in your own marathon training.
I just came back from my 30-kilometer long run on the famous Moyben Road here in Iten, Kenya. Tomorrow I have my bi-weekly rest day. I'm a bit tired of 13 days consecutive training and grind.
I'm already grinding 7 weeks of around 100 miles each week with 2 hours of cross training on the bike as well. Here you can see my Strava graph the last 7 weeks. So what do we face during marathon training? Well, you'll definitely face tiredness in my opinion, because you're running, especially in your peak training weeks, quite high volume, and you will get tired from that.
Some days getting out of bed is hard. You're completely knackered. Like me, after running 160 kilometer weeks at altitude, the body is of course getting tired.
One clear sign of tiredness, in my opinion, is that the heart rate doesn't get up to a regular level during the tempos or intervals. Well, the first tip for this is take full rest days. Why it's important to take full rest days? To stay consistent, also to really suck up all the training that you did before, recover from it, and also you can push harder in the sessions after your rest day, so the quality of your training remains.
And notice especially your heart is also a muscle that needs rest.
So important not to exercise and keep the heart rate low instead of doing a 30-minute easy run where you still crank up the heart rate and challenge the aerobic system also a little bit. The second problem that I face here during my marathon training is definitely the phenomena of blisters.
My feet look like they've survived the battlefield. 2 weeks ago I had quite nasty blisters, as you can see here. I also have 2.5 black toenails, which come from blisters beneath the toe bed, and then the nail dies.
And when the blister does pop, make sure you disinfect it twice a day, or at least after every run, because you don't want it to get any infections. And then my second tip follows on getting blisters is buy good running shoes, and also to tighten them fast enough, especially in longer runs, because the heat and the sweat in your sock combined with the friction in your shoe cause the blisters. Especially if your shoes are loose, then you might get some blisters. And one thing people should also recognize, in my opinion, during marathon training or after a marathon race is some shaving spots, especially in the groin area or in your nipples.
In the worst case, you also get bleeding nipples from too much friction from your wet t-shirt.
So here's my tip number 3.
Luckily, this problem is easy to fix with some Vaseline or chamas cream that I use for cycling as well. Or some bandages, of course. After my last long run, I did not use enough cream for my groins, and man, this shower hits you hard.
Ay, ay, ay. On to the next thing you might face is some sore legs after a long run or from the high volume. So that's definitely something you will notice during marathon training. And it's important to take recovery serious, therefore, in my opinion. And then we get to my tip number 4, is think about your recovery process.
The foam roller is my friend. I use it once or twice per day, especially before bedtime. Also, I have a cheap option for Kenya massage here as well. The massage is only $3.50 for an hour. Insane. And last week I've also tried the ice bed here.
I understand, of course, not all these options are available to you. However, eating healthy and also doing some walks for recovery can really help to speed up the recovery process. And also, if you start to feel a niggle, be honest about it and maybe switch to some cross training or taking a rest day. Consistency is still very important and key in your marathon training.
Oh well, these were 3 tips in a row. It's raining tips out here.
And the last aspect which I want to cover is, of course, the long run into your training schedule, especially the duration of it. And that brings me to my tip number five, which is don't do a long run over 2.5 hours or over 25% of your weekly volume.
Why? You might get injured from continuous load, or your legs/body need to recover too long from this long run.
In both cases, in my opinion, your training the next week will suffer from it. Then we come back to the point of consistency as well. Being consistent instead of running less volume because your long run was too hard or too long is not a good option in my opinion. And is marathon training then only suffering? No, of course not. There are also some points of satisfaction and joy.
Like getting a runner's high while running once in a while, feeling like a beast.
You can also eat a lot. Fueling your training in general or your long run is pretty important, of course. Don't hold back on fuel and carbs.
You'll start eating like you're carbo loading for the Hunger Games, with some food cravings and food comas sometimes. If I get really hungry, I can eat a meal over 1500 calories in one meal.
And like I said, don't worry too much about your weight of overfueling. In my opinion, you can lose this weight easily the last 3 or 4 weeks during the last stages of the marathon training and focus a bit on your weight loss there, or actually fat loss. Of course, then you finally reach the race day,
And as you cross that finish line, it's pure glory. Your body is exhausted, but your heart is full.
and all the hard work that you put into it and the sacrifices will be worth it if you reach your goal time in the end. I hope this video gave you some insight in my marathon training, the things that you might face as well during a marathon training block. And let me know down in the comments what your first meal would be after a marathon or what food craving. For me, it would be a good burger. And as always, if you still go out there today, have fun and get on the run.